pool of emotionally and economically viable men shrinks every day, which lessens household formation. So we have a real issue. Young people are enraged. So it turns every cut, every movement into an opportunistic infection because, quite frankly, they are just pissed off.
Here is Scott Galloway. We've had him on the show before, NYU professor of business, talking about the honest part of this. The honest part of it is that there is a cost of living issue. Now, the cost of living issue, I would say, is largely because of bad Democrat policies, perhaps something like the Inflation Reduction Act, which just printed money and actually increased inflation. Donald Trump's trying to reverse all that and get the economy going. But young people do have the general sense that it is harder to get ahead. We also have extremely high interest rates right now. So it's very hard to get a loan, right? In the old days, you could put down 20% and get an interest, get a loan at, say, 2.5%, something like that. And as I always talk about, then it's kind of fun to pay your mortgage because it's like, oh, I'm paying myself to live. That's pretty great. Now interest rates are closer to 6-7%, and often they want 25 or 30% down. So it is harder. That's the legit part. The question is communism the answer? Anyway, here's Scott Galloway.
For the first time in our nation's history, a 30-year-old man or woman isn't doing as well as his or her parents were at 30. That is the social compact breaking down. People aged 30 to 34, 60% of them in 1990 had one child. Now it's 27%. People are opting out of America. They're not optimistic about it. They're not having kids. Young people aren't having sex. They're not meeting. They're not mating. The pool of emotionally and economically viable men shrinks every day, which lessens household formation. So we have a real issue. Young people are enraged. So it turns every cut, every movement into an opportunistic infection because, quite frankly, they are just pissed off. Housing prices have gone from $290 to $420 in the last 4 years. So a young person, a house, stocks that I don't own skyrocket in value. Let's have COVID relief and flush the markets and take assets way up, because if 1 million people dying would be bad, would be tragic if I got less wealthy. And we're doing it on their credit card. Young people have every reason to be enraged, and every issue they see, they look up, they get angry, and they see someone doing better than them. And then every day it is speedballed in their face that they are failing, that they are not doing as well as everyone around them. We have lost the script. Our kids are more anxious and more depressed and more obese and more addicted. And we have made a purposeful decision to let this happen by ensuring the people around this table stay wealthy at the cost of young people.
All right, I'm offering all of the people who I'm against advice today. Not only am I going to do it for Eric Adams, but, Scott Galloway, who I really like, by the way, and I've had on the show, and he's a good man. He's a Democrat, actually. But he does lay out things that make sense. Now, he voted for Kamala, so to me, his conclusion of all of this is wrong, right? So it would sort of be like a Bill Maher version of it. You get most of the issues right, but then you get to the wrong conclusion, is what it is. Tax day may have passed, but for millions of Americans, the real trouble is just beginning. If you miss the April 15th deadline or still owe back taxes, the IRS is ramping up enforcement. Every day you wait only makes things worse. The good news? There's still time for Tax Network USA to help. Self-employed or a business owner with messy books, Tax Network USA quickly organizes your finances and gets you back on track. Even post-deadline, a free consultation can help you act now to avoid penalties, threatening letters, and levies. So call 1-800-958-1000 or visit tnusa.com/Dave. Let Tax Network USA help. But what I would say to the Democrats is, maybe you, and I know they're not going to do it, but you might want to listen to someone like him. He's addressing he's acknowledging that whatever's going on with young people, he laid out the depression, they're not having kids, they're literally not having sex, they're not getting out, they're all of the things, and it's post-COVID and all of the stuff, and then they see the economic conditions, and also it's also partly, in some way, it's like, get over it, wow, like the world is not that easy. Like, it's freaking tough. And for as depressed as you might be at 19 and think that the world sucks right now, it's still a hell of a lot better for you than it was for your grandparents at 19, almost without exception. That's just reality. But it's hard to explain that to young people, right? Like, they just think everything's about them at all times. That's part of being young. I would recommend, if you were a Democrat, you might want to listen to a guy like this a little bit more, because his conclusion is that we don't want to go to communism. He's not saying all of that and then saying, okay, vote for the communists. I love the phrase, I'm going to use it. He said that that it's an opportunistic infection. That's the right idea. So what the Democrats are doing, the reason you see them all diving in on Mamdani right now, is they see an opportunist infection. There's an infection, there's something wrong, regardless of how it got wrong or whatever else. But then the opportunists jump in. So if you would have said to David Axelrod, who was an Obama guy, but largely just like a nothing Democrat moderate 20 years ago, if you would have said to him, boy, will you be supporting a communist who wants to abolish private property and get rid of the prisons 20 years from now? He would have said, you're a freaking lunatic. But it's an opportunistic infection. He sees which way the winds are blowing, and because they don't stand for anything, they will just stand for the energy. That's where we're at.